Joseph Evans. How are you, sir?
I'm doing excellent, Todd.
Doing excellent. I'm happy to be sitting here with you. You and I got connected. I was not planning on wading into this discussion, but somebody asked me if I would do some episodes on the marijuana initiative. And I was like, okay. And I did some last year with a vet that was advocating.
Jeremy Kitzhaber.
Yep. Had a great conversation with him. Then had a conversation with a member in law enforcement. It's like, okay, people generally know which way they land on this and, whatever. And then I got pulled into it again. I'm happy to be sitting here with you. Happy I did those. But it is a conversation now that's really kind of hitting a fever pitch. There's a large campaign across the state to collect ballot signatures and stuff. And you reached out and you're like, hey, man, I know you had these two guys on. I wouldn't mind coming on. And, again, you're somebody who knows a bunch of people that I know. I was like, okay, great. Let's have the conversation. Yeah. So here you are. Talk to me about legalizing marijuana in Idaho.
Okay, so a little background is I'm United States Army vet, combat veteran, did 3 tours in Afghanistan, 1 tour in Iraq between 2001 and 2002 to 2011. I got out of the service, came out, was looking at a number of different things, basically to recreate myself. And one of these things I found myself involved in was the legalization effort, because I was looking for alternative medicines outside of the mainstream that would actually help with recovery for a number of issues, including PTSD, TBI, and moral injury. Now, of course, the easy one, the low-hanging fruit, is, of course, cannabis, because it was getting legalized around the United States at that time. It was coming online, and we were starting to see advances. We were starting to see more and more research develop from it. So a couple of years ago, I got involved with Kind Idaho. Jackie Winters, who is the chair, and myself got together, started running some of the petitions as a volunteer grassroots sort of movement with Kind Idaho. And of course, our petition was a little different than the one that's currently being run by Natural Medicine Alliance of Idaho. And there was another iteration that we tried for a decriminalization of personal use, which we started last November, and got about halfway through when Natural Medicine came in and said, hey, we're paying people to make sure this gets done. So
gets their bill done.
Their bill done.
Because their bill is not just decriminalization for personal use.
No, theirs is entirely a medical program, and it is written specifically for Idaho. Matter of fact, it's a variation on the Jeremy Kitzhaber medical initiative or medical bill that was presented by Jeremy, last session with Ilana Rubel. So few modifications specifically created for these particular growers, but they figured it was about time to move from doing CBD growing here in the state, growing hemp, into actually going for a full medical program. They reached out, picked up Jeremy's version, ran it through Givens Pursley. They did some modifications specifically to ensure that they were going to be able to get their money back by making sure that they had first license options for growing cannabis for THC in a medical program here in the state of Idaho.
And who's that? Who's getting their money back?
There's about 3 or 4 CBD producers. That's hemp growers here in the state. You actually go in and take a look at who has hemp licenses here in the state, going clear back to 2022.
Okay.
When it was first authorized. It's a couple of the growers in there. Reason why is because they own land. They've already cleared it. They know what they need for their medical requirements, which basically means clean land. It can't have gone through any of the Monsanto treatments that you see in a lot of the lowland areas. So you're looking at variations, places where they've been growing hay for a while. Hemp now, producing CBD from the hemp they've been growing. So the soil is clean and they're ready to move on to THC for the medical program.
And you're saying those are the people funding the Natural Medicine
Yes.
Alliance?
Absolutely. So these are Idaho growers.
And wait, how do we know that?
That's an interesting question, because unless you're on the inside, you don't know that. And being able to trace it back is extremely difficult because of the way they did the cutouts.
Yeah. But they could just do it very clearly straight to the C3 and be like, we've donated, or to the PAC. I don't know how, but like, you could just make it very visible.
You could. And I imagine that it was presented this way for legal reasons, because Givens Pursley, they're an international law firm. They're the ones who set up the arrangements with the Natural Medicine Alliance of Idaho PAC, the Natural Medicine Alliance of Idaho nonprofit, who they're working through, as well as who receives which monies and in what order, to make sure that those people who are being paid to collect signatures are getting paid. Now, of course, the Natural Medicine Alliance of Idaho nonprofit is the one that's donating to the Natural Medicine Alliance of Idaho PAC, which is the one that's paying for the signature gatherers, as well as an awful lot of the advertising that's coming out. So you got this level of cutouts, basically to ensure the integrity and the safety of the foundations and the LLCs that are making sure that the funding is going to the proper people.
Gotcha. So you have the Natural Medical Alliance nonprofit, and people are donating into that. People and organizations and whatever are donating to that. And there's a veil that nobody can pierce, which is, okay, who supplied this money? We don't know. And then that nonprofit donates its proceeds to the PAC, the National Medicine PAC. And the PAC is the one paying for these individual people to collect signatures and advertise and do these things. And there is clarity with who's donating to the PAC. You have to, the PAC has to disclose who it's getting its money from.
Absolutely.
So they're using these two entities, one that has a veil that you can't pierce, to aggregate the funds and then distribute those directly to the political action that then acts accordingly. But we don't know who. We know the funds came from the nonprofit, but we don't actually have receipts on who donated to the nonprofit.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And that's standard practice here in the state of Idaho with regards to the PACs. You take a look at Idaho Freedom Foundation. You take a look at some of the others. They have the exact same cutout process. Okay, the donations come into the nonprofit. From there, they're fed into the PAC. From there, the PAC's able to do its political actions.
There have been a lot of, if you bring up the Freedom Foundation, there are many allegations that that is funded largely from out-of-state donors.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So what I'm getting at is when you're like, hey, this money's coming from these people, then it's like, well, how do we know? And it's like, well, you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't.
Not legally, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like in no verifiable way.
Not in a way that we're going to be able to verify currently without going through and digging through legal paperwork, figuring out, who's paying Givens Pursley, which of course you can't because they're the lobbying organization.
Yeah, right. So there's no way to figure
layers.
It out. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
When
but
it comes,
you feel at least some of them are the CBD growers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Reason why is because you actually take a look at the language of the initiative, and the initiative does not benefit anybody but Idaho growers. So this isn't something that you can come in and say all of a sudden, hey, we want to start growing. We're going to buy a bunch of land and start growing CBD or cannabis. These are established growers already. They're already set up with the limit of 3 licenses. Those licenses are going to go to already CBD licensee holders. So the ability for somebody to come in from outside and actually grab that land and turn it into a corporate entity, tradable, is significantly more difficult than what's been established in several other states.
So what happens? Here's a question. And I don't know if the current ballot initiative engages in this, but like if let's say my neighbor's grown a bunch of plants.
Yeah.
Let's say they're growing like 20 plants. If somebody calls on them now, sheriff shows up, they're like, you got 20 plants, man.
You're going to prison.
This is not a good look for you. These are bad things. And they get charged and they get justices served. However, if this passes, then my neighbor growing 20 plants again
will go to prison for 20 years.
Okay. So it does nothing.
It does absolutely nothing for home grow. And that's actually a sticking point with an awful lot of cannabis activists. Cannabis activists want home grow. They want accessibility to grow their own medicine. There's absolutely no allowance for that in this initiative.
In this particular one.
In this particular one, yes.
Gotcha. One of the concerns with the bill process that I've seen play out is that like the flag bill,
Right.
Right. So like the flag bill passes initially with like, no, there's no recourse, no fine, no jail time, no nothing.
Yeah.
And then the next session, it's like, okay, now we layer on the things. So, I think people are very worried that it's like, okay, once, the legalization comes for the product itself, then of course the next step would be, well, why are we making it legal just for corporations to profit? Or why are we, if this is an acceptable thing, why can't we individually, grow it?
And that's an interesting perspective. Reason why is because we've seen it happen and we've seen it play out that way, across the United States.
What I described.
Right.
Gotcha.
Exactly. You set up the medical program. After the medical program's established, all of a sudden the money starts flowing in. And now you start taking a look at the situation. The legislators are going, we could generate more revenue if we just open it up a little bit more.
To home growers. Or people
it won't be to home growers because there is no revenue for home grow. There's no state revenue for it. It doesn't exist. You grow your own medicine, nobody gets richer for it, which means nobody, not the legislature, not the corporations, not the companies, not the, shops. Nobody wants to see home grow. And you actually see that play out in several other states where they've gone and they've done medical with the option to home grow, and then they go recreational, and then once they go recreational, they start criminalizing home grow again.
Oh, interesting. Wait, what states did that?
I can't remember right offhand, but there's a few.
Gotcha.
But the idea is they don't want the home grow, not even hobby growers, because that's dipping into the revenue bucket for all of these corporations, all of the interests, including the government taxing agencies. So when they set this initiative with no home grow option, the only people who were able to grow it were going to be the licensee holders. You've all of a sudden restricted who can grow. And now the taxing organization knows exactly who they can go to collect the money from.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So bottom line is we have our C3, we have the PAC, the C3 is taking donations, the PAC is executing and donating, getting the funds to execute from the nonprofit. The bill is carved out to benefit existing growers in the state of Idaho.
Yes.
It doesn't allow for people to engage in their own home growing.
Correct.
It doesn't change with any kind of legal structure around, other operations or anything.
Nope.
And that's the way it goes.
You get caught carrying 3 ounces without a medical card, it's prison. That's a felony. You get caught carrying under that without a medical card, misdemeanor. You're going to jail. If you're growing without a license, which means you're not one of the original 3, or if they expand it, however many 6 licensee holders, and you're caught growing, boom, you're on your way. Single plant, it's felony in the state of Idaho. Prison time. 1 plant.
I don't know anything about growing, but I do know that I don't believe there are any people in the Ada County Jail or other jails for just possession, like marijuana possession, under, obviously not like dealership level. So it's my understanding that in general, what happens is you get like a ticket and you move on your way, and like you might have to pay a fine and stuff.
There's some different arrangements depending on which jurisdiction you get picked up in.
Sure.
Some of them are a little bit more about, okay, we're hauling you in and we're going to let you out on Monday. Other arrangements like that. You don't stay around in jail for very long as you're handling minor amounts. That's going to be under 3 ounces in the state of Idaho. As soon as you get involved with more than 3 ounces or involved with a plant, possession of the plant or growing the plant, that automatically becomes a felony. So you start looking at who's going to prison for what, under what circumstances. If you got a grow in your home, you got set up with the lights, you're doing your aquaponics, aeroponics, whatever. You're growing your own stuff to make sure you have access to the stuff you need or the variation that works for you.
Sure.
Boom, you're on your way to prison. No ifs, ands, or buts. You may be able to plead it down to misdemeanor possession somehow, some way, if you got 10 grand to pay the lawyers. Otherwise, you'll be on your way to prison and you'll be serving your time out in Arizona because you're a low security risk.
Yeah. And we got to pay Arizona more than we pay Idaho, but we don't have enough beds in Idaho. Yeah, man, we can't get into the prison population issue. Like that one's just, it makes my head go, yuck. So what do you think then about the ballot initiative that's going around right now?
I think it's something that's absolutely needed. The reason why is because cannabis is a medicine. Okay. We continue to see more and more research being developed that it treats effectively several different conditions. Currently we're spending close to $4.5 million a week in border town dispensaries, and being able to recoup that and keep the money here in the state through taxing the medical program, in addition to having people who use it through the medical program, being able to have those open conversations with their physicians and their doctors about what they're using, why they're using, and under what conditions. That way the doctor can continue to monitor it. They're getting good advice from their doctor, their physician, as well as, their other caregivers. They have feedback, because it's no longer just, I smoke it till I feel right. You now have people who are able to monitor it for you, say, hey, you've had too much, slow down. So you can start having that professional interaction with medical dosage, medical usage, with the intent to treat a specific condition. And right now, as long as we're doing self-medication, that's not available.
So it sounds like you're saying tax revenue and then just individual utilization for medical ailments. Those are the two big things behind it.
Those are absolutely the two big things about it. For me personally, it's about medical treatment. As a patient advocate, I want to make sure that the patients have access to the stuff that works for them. I want to see them healed. I want to see them cured. I don't want to see them continually being drugged through the medical system, getting the symptoms treated when there are legitimate cures that are available.
So you feel that this is something that's like if I have arthritis, it's a cure, it's not a treatment to the symptom?
Okay, arthritis is different. Reason why is because cannabis won't actually treat arthritis. What it does is it treats the symptoms, which is mainly the aches and pains.
So if I have anxiety, it treats anxiety,
right?
Not the symptom of anxiety.
It adjusts some of the chemical balances so that you're not worried as much, so that you're not as anxious as much. Now, that's one of those things that's interesting, because if we're looking at treatment for the condition or treatment for the symptoms versus a treatment for the condition.
Yeah.
Okay. There are several chemicals out there that we currently use to treat symptoms.
Yeah.
And the idea and the goal is here. You can use this, but you still need to undergo therapy. You still need to undergo treatment for the underlying condition. This will get you through your workday. But we still need to talk about the root cause, the root trauma that causes that anxiety, so that you can get past that and move on. Because nobody wants anybody to actually get stuck in a chronic use situation. There are very few people I know that honestly believe you can go 40 years of smoking every day and still be okay at the end of it.
Oh, sure.
Even Willie Nelson has had to say, had to step back, man, can't smoke it anymore. Still take the gummies at night, but, so this is one of those situations, chronic use. I don't think anybody really wants anybody getting stuck in a chronic use situation, substance abuse style, when there are cures for the underlying condition. But at the same time, you still need something that effectively treats the symptoms so that people can get in for the treatment of the trauma or whatever that's causing the initial problem.
Okay, so that's the problem with the contemporary medical issue, it sounds like. But you're saying that, like, what are the illnesses that you would say cannabis cures, not just treats the symptoms?
Okay. Some of them where it's apparently proven effective. Various forms of cancer. And we see it being used as treated for. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What kinds?
A couple different kinds. Glaucoma being a big one, which is eye cancer. A couple other variations that I can't really name right off.
Okay.
But, kidney, some of the others, some of the cannabinoids, once it interacts with your endocannabinoid system, actually goes in and changes the way your body handles the invasive properties of cancer. A recent study came back with regards to breast cancer, in the way that it helps reduce the size of tumors. Brain cancer is a big one. I've said that already.
No, I don't think you mentioned brain cancer.
Yeah, I said glaucoma.
Yeah. Same general area.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Brain adjacent.
Yeah, brain adjacent, head adjacent. But we've seen the medical studies coming out of other nations. Yeah, of course, we haven't been able to study it here in the U.S. legally, since it was criminalized back in the 1970s. But we see the studies coming out of other countries. We see it coming out of the Netherlands, out of Britain, Mexico, Brazil. These studies keep flowing in saying, hey, we got research indication that it does this and it does that and it does the other. Now, of course, you're still dealing with a problem that they're over-exaggerating. In the same way that the anti-cannabis crowd here over-exaggerates the harms that can be done. Absolutely. There can be harm done, which is one of the reasons why, as a patient advocate, I do not advocate for chronic use. I don't advocate for excessive use. I want you to be able to interact with people and be able to say, hey, I'm using. If I'm overdoing it, let me know. And that's the same with having access to the physician saying, look, I'm using it. If my chemicals change in any significant way when I come in for blood tests for whatever issue, we can interact and we can discuss and modify my usage. Now that's one of those things. Now, Jeremy, of course, you talked to him. His primary reason for going over to cannabis, which he's still waiting for it to be legal in the state of Idaho so he can, is, of course, pain management. He has incurable cancer. And he's got to carry Narcan around with him because if he doesn't have the Narcan, his pain management program could kill him. That's one of the things that we look at with an awful lot of people who are using it for a pain management program. You're still looking for the actual cure, but in the meantime, it's improving your quality of life.
Gotcha. So it sounds like, again, that you're saying, look, this can cure certain types of cancer. And we don't know. Like, again, I'll have to look into that because I don't understand. Okay. Is there anything else that you feel like it cures or just manages pain?
There are things it cures, and certain things that it's an extremely good treatment for, in that it helps balance out the endocannabinoid system so that your chemistry is more in tune. And of course, there are conditions, genetic conditions, and others where cannabis is strongly advised against. Okay. Cannabis doesn't work for everybody. It's not the cure-all. It's not the magic drug that says, take this and you'll be fine.
Sure.
There's somewhere between 6 to 16% of the population which have a genetic or congenital issue where cannabis won't work.
Oh, sure. But I mean,
in any way, shape, but that's any medicine.
Well, latex, right? Like people are allergic to latex.
Right. Anaphylactic shock going,
Yeah. I mean, so allergies is that's kind of like, yeah, man, like people are allergic to a lot of things. So bottom line is you feel it's a very effective pain management or symptom management.
Extremely effective pain and symptom management. And for the various conditions that it will actually cure, it's essential. You don't have to go through chemo for some of these. If you are going through chemo, it's a nice additive because it helps with your appetite, because chemo is an appetite suppressant. Helps with your appetite, helps with your pain management, allows you to continue to eat and keep up your strength while you're going through these rather invasive procedures for cancer treatments.
Are there any countries that actually use this for cancer treatment? They're like in Mexico. Do you go down there? You're like, hey man, I got glaucoma. And they're like, okay, just take this over there, and no need for chemo or anything like that. Or like, I got brain cancer. They're like, okay, take this, go over there, feet up. Like, are there countries that engage in it in that way?
No, I don't think there are. Reason why is because this is a time lapse procedure. It's not something that you're just going to take, over, 3 months and all of a sudden you're cured.
Okay. But when you were saying that you don't have to do chemo,
right?
Where do you see that?
Couple of friends that I've talked to with different options, and they've chosen not to do chemo because they believe in the medicine. Now, some people look at it then at that and go, well, that's the placebo effect. You manage to cure yourself, not doing the right thing, because you believe that much in the other thing. And there's a certain amount of that with the anecdotal that I tend to disagree with, because I do believe there is medicinal value. I do believe that some of the chemicals that help rebalance your body structure, rebalance your body chemistry, actually help you, help your body manage and maintain its resistance against cancer type cells. And again, we continue to see that coming out of the research from other nations.
So more of a prophylactic,
yeah,
essentially, like preventative.
Well, it's not preventative because they actually start using it after they've been diagnosed with the condition. What it does is once they're diagnosed with the condition, their endocannabinoid system is actually able to reduce the size of the inflammation and reduce the size of the tumor, and in some cases even attack and destroy the cancer cells because of the way this is brought back into their system and helps balance them out.
Gotcha. And again, there's no one there. It sounds like there's no country that like actively engages in cancer treatment with this, but it's something that you feel you've seen with people.
So this is like an outpatient treatment.
Okay.
Yeah. Now,
but it is an actual protocol.
It is an actual protocol. So it's an outpatient treatment. You're going to be able to get your certain amount of cannabis. The Medical Card Holders Association in Oregon is one of those. Here's your stuff. You'll continue to get a supply of this on a regular basis. Continue to use it. We'll check up on you and check the progress process of what's going on with your glaucoma, with your brain cancer, with, whatever. Jackie's daughter has been able to successfully treat her brain cancer with this. One of the individuals that I work with that we worked with the Oregon Card Holders Association, has been able to use it successfully with regards to glaucoma and cancer. So we've seen the protocol, and it's even been used here in the U.S. since it started being legalized. So another friend, Oregon, kidney cancer, was able to put it into remission without going through the extra steps of chemotherapy. So I've seen the protocol work here in the U.S. since they've at least initiated some of the medical programs. And one of the interesting things about that is you start talking to those people who were on the original medical cannabis programs in states where medical has gone by the wayside because recreational has taken over. And you realize that the quality of cannabis that was originally in the medical programs is no longer sustainable, which means you no longer have medical grade cannabis to treat many of these conditions in many of the states where you're still getting that medical discount because you carry the card. You're walking in, you're still paying for your cannabis, you're getting your 15% discount off of the tax rate, but you're not getting the quality of stuff that originally started with, and it's no longer being as effective against your conditions that you were using it to treat. So this again is an issue that we see with moving from a medical program to a recreational program. There's actually an industry that benefits very much from that, and that's the medical industry. Because if we're not selling medical grade cannabis to our patients, the patients have to go back to pharmaceuticals because the recreational cannabis isn't treating their condition.
So are you saying if we get the medical legislation passed, then the hospital associations in Idaho would advocate for recreational use?
That's a tough one, because that's actually the way it's worked in several other states. Now, Idaho's a little bit different. I honestly think that you would start seeing hospital administrations and certain organizations associated with the American Medical Association come in and say, yeah, let's recriminalize it. This isn't working out the way we expected it to. And of course, they're going to come out with the research and evidence saying, cannabis hasn't done what was promised, this, that, the other. But at the same time, if it wasn't doing that, they wouldn't be pushing for it to be recriminalized because they wouldn't have been losing profits.
Well, okay. But that's saying if they act this way, the only reason they're acting this way, the only possible reason they're acting this way is because of X. And that's a pretty reductionist perspective. At least it seems it's like, hey, all of them are advocating for the recriminalization. Can't possibly have anything to do with what they see in the hospital. It has to absolutely be just that they want to increase their profits again. So we got to recriminalize it. Or for instance, I have a friend who's an oncologist,
right?
And he's like, look, man, the number of people that believe ivermectin will cure their cancer, right, and that they don't have to engage in these things. He's like, it's really sad to see, because overwhelmingly, he's like, ivermectin doesn't cure cancer. He's like, and I've been at this for a lot of decades. All I do all day long is deal with cancer patients, and just look, the number of oncologists that gets cancer and then use ivermectin as a cure is like, I don't know, 0. Right. So, the idea that there are problems with people believing that things are cure-alls and that hospitals have to engage with on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
That it's like, you could make the argument, the oncologists say that just because ivermectin's over the counter or roughly over the counter, and they don't make, or it's generic, not over the counter, but ivermectin's generic, so they don't make all the money they would with chemotherapy, which is why they advocate for chemotherapy, because they want to make their money again. It's like, I could say that, but like, that's
only good for a certain population within, the hospital administration department, or where you're looking at it. Hey, what's our bottom line? Why are profits down? Why are we allowing certain things to happen? Because that's affecting shareholder profits. What, you mean that's actually curing people? We can't have that, because if people are being cured, that affects shareholder profits. Now the thing is
if you have a nonprofit system, man, they don't have shareholders. Like St. Luke's doesn't have shareholders. Right. So like, what would be St. Luke's motivation then? Of like, all I'm saying is if we reduce it down to, they don't like it just because they want more money. It's like, well, I mean, I think that betrays common sense with a lot of things that are as complex as medicine.
And up to a certain point, I'd agree with you, except you step back and you take a look at what's gone on with the CDC. You take a look at what's gone on with the American Medical Association since it was founded. The move from traditional medicines into pharmaceuticals under Rockefeller. The initial criminalization of cannabis and moving away from certain other drugs that were originally compounded in apothecaries, in pharmacies, as we started moving more and more towards certain kinds of medicines created through Rockefeller-based organizations. We've seen the move to monomolecular medicine, where what we've done is we've gone in and we've changed one molecule in something in order to patent it so that we can sell it at an outrageous price. And it may or may not actually be successful because it's a synthetic of the original. But we've continued to watch that happen in pharmaceutical industry year after year after year. All they're doing is changing one thing. Now it's intellectual property, and the person who changed it is able to charge so much more for it.
You know what I don't understand about this argument in general?
What?
It doesn't work like that in Canada.
No.
Now, they still have Western medicine. They might have a single payer system, but they still have Western medicine. So the idea that it's like, hey, man, this company making X, right? Whatever the drug is, doesn't matter. Like, Canada gets it at a lower rate. And, now with Trump RX, it's my understanding that you have like a lot of the most commonly used. And again, I don't know all the details, but it's kind of like, is it really the system, the Western medicine system that derives a profit that is to blame? Or is it like, hey man, you have both of those systems. Like, you still have for-profit pharmaceuticals in Canada. You got them in the United States. We just have different prices, predominantly because there's a different system around the actual companies.
Except Canada's introduced MAID.
What's that?
Canada's introduced MAID.
I don't know what you're saying to me. What's introduced MAID?
Canada has a program. It's basically assisted suicide for people that are on their single-payer medical program.
I think Oregon has that too, right?
Yeah, Oregon has assisted suicide as well. The difference is in Canada, the state will actually pay to allow you to suicide rather than continue to be part of the pay for health system.
Okay, but coming back to pharmaceuticals. Right. So your argument is that because we have a for-profit pharmaceutical industry, that's why they have these exorbitant fees. But Canada also has a for-profit pharmaceutical industry that generate, same industries, right? It's like you're making insulin, same company, but they're paying less up there. So it's not just the existence of the capitalistic system around pharmaceuticals. There's something else going on around it.
Right. And a lot of that has to do with property or intellectual property right laws in Canada versus the US versus European Union. And intellectual property laws, the way that we've set it up in the United States actually allows them to charge significantly more here in the US than they're able to charge in many of the other countries.
Right. So it's not the medical system. It's the lawyers.
It's the lawyers. It's the legal system. It's the for-profit system.
Right. Well, but
it's the capital system.
Well, sure. But you were going back to, hey, look, it's the medical system that we shifted away from. It's like, well, it's not really the medical system why it's expensive. It's the lawyers in this country and different lawyers and different policies and regulations in other countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that a lot of people, especially in this state I've spoken with that are worried about is if you look at, if you go to, I just went to it. I was posting about it quite a bit. If the California government has a data site that allows you to figure out, like, get information about it, and you can just, go to, it's like, I don't know what the site is, but you can just Google California cannabis government site.
Right.
Anyway, they one of the arguments for medical legalization is that we are going to decrease the black market system that exists that people currently use, and it just appears that that's, at least from California, it's like 90% of per the state of California, 90% of the cannabis grown in California is illegally grown.
Yeah.
So the argument that it would eliminate the black market appears to not be true in practice.
Okay, one of the problems when it comes to the black market issue versus state taxation is as long as the black market can bring it in for a price that's less expensive than what the state allows it to be sold for, you will have a black market.
Sure.
Okay. So what's happened in California is California has overtaxed the cannabis to the point where the black market's still profitable. And that's largely the problem, where you still have a black market in any one of the states where it's been legalized. The state has decided to, as your friend pointed out, share the profits from the black market rather than take over the entire market and clean it up and make it a white market.
Wait, which friend are you referring to?
The one that you just hosted not that long ago that was talking about the way the states are sharing the profits with the black market by legalizing cannabis, legalizing a number of different drugs.
I think you're talking about Monty Style.
Yeah, Monty.
Yeah. My guest, Monty.
Yeah, your guest,
right.
Monty. Yeah, because that was one of the clips I
caught,
was him talking about the way the states are sharing. And you go to, like you said, the California site. And say, well, we're legalizing it because that's going to get rid of the black market.
Right.
Okay.
That's what was sold to the California populace.
And it was, except the problem is California overtaxed it, which the black market's still able to come in and undercut what's being taxed. So they never were able to get rid of the black market. Same situation.
What state got rid of the black market?
None of them.
Okay. So in theory, you can eliminate the black market, but in practice, in all states that have engaged in this, they have not eliminated the black market.
No. And they're not going to, as long as they insist on overtaxing the product.
But if you know this, and let's say I know this, then they must know this. Yeah. Everyone must know this.
Oh, yeah.
So we have, I think, 38 states now between recreation and medicinal use. So each one of these 38 states is like, we know we could stop the black market by not overtaxing this, but we're not going to. And so we're going to perpetuate the black market.
Yeah.
Okay, so that argument is bunk then in your mind.
No, it's not.
But isn't that like saying
it's
socialism works as if you do it right, but nobody's done it right? Like you're saying there is nobody who's done it right.
Right. And nobody's going to do it right because the states are addicted to the revenue.
Okay, that sounds bad.
It is.
Great.
It's extremely bad.
I don't know anything about this, but if you're like, hey man, there's a black market, and one of the primary arguments that people make is that we have people with medicinal needs for marijuana and they have to get it off the black market right now. And that's really bad. But one, we could legalize it for those medical people and they could get stuff that's not off the black market. That's good. And then two, the black market would evaporate because there would be no profit. That's one of the primary arguments that people make for this. And you're like, yeah, that's not ever going to happen. And it hasn't. And not only that, it hasn't happened. So there will be no elimination of the black market. Okay.
Not the way we're currently handling it. No.
Well, anybody, not just like anyone.
Well, anybody in the United States. Anybody in the United States. There has not been a state government that has not gone through the process and decided, look at the profit margins the black market is making. We want those profit margins. We want to tax it and we want to make that revenue for the state. And then you end up with, you're paying $150 an ounce, to the state, and along comes the black market and they're undercutting you by $20.
Yeah, look, I'm not an economist. I mean, I understand, hey, I can produce something for cheaper than this other person and we just get on with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
and that's what the black market is doing, is they're saying, hey, I can get it to you cheaper.
Okay. So bottom line is that's a bunk argument. Per I guess data across the country. Okay. What about the argument with what about the concern that people have with wild lands and the damage that like illegal grows do? I presume under this premise that wouldn't be eliminated either or ameliorated or anything.
Well, no. Reason why is because the legal grows are going to be on licensee farmland.
Sure.
Okay. So wherever there's an illegal grow, the illegal grows are still going to continue to exist. Okay. The fact that it's legal isn't going to change whether or not an illegal grow continues to happen. Reason why is because the way Idaho has it set up, the way they're writing it is there's only one market that's being taken care of. That is the market for medical. Okay. Now you take a look at the estimates that have come out about that. Okay.
But to be clear, to get a medical card is not like I could go and say I have insomnia and anxiety and I get a medical card. No, that I can't do that. Why not?
Okay. Part of it is the structure that's set up in the initiative. Okay. This is a far more critical, and it's also one that's more involved in the way the physicians here in the state of Idaho like to practice medicine. And when you went and saw it get set up in California and Colorado and many of the others, what you had was an awful lot of fly-by-night physicians come in and say, hey, I feel better about writing you a script for cannabis than I do Oxy, but I'll sell you Oxy too. So you basically saw an awful lot of people, writing the scripts because it was quick, easy money for them. Here's $50 for an appointment. Here's, 30 seconds for a signature. Have at it.
And why wouldn't that come to pass here?
Part of it is the Idaho licensing arrangements for the physicians here in the state.
And what is that? How is that different?
Reason why is because Idaho has proven to be much more critical of the licensing agreements, as well as being able to withhold and pull licenses of physicians who are found to be behaving in a way inappropriate to the good order and discipline of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
Okay, but what I'm saying is a medical condition that I could gain a medical card for is, like, I have trouble sleeping. Not a surprise to anybody who's seen this show. I drink a lot of coffee and I get really worked up over topics. And I'll wake up at like last night, I woke up at 2:30 and we're like wide awake. I'm like, God, bless it. I won't drink coffee past 5 o'clock today. Just let me go back to sleep. Okay. So, but I could go to it's my understanding that one of the things that would be determined would be insomnia. So I go to a doctor. I'm like, listen, man, I have horrible insomnia. Yeah. I cannot stay asleep. Sometimes I have a really hard time falling asleep. Can I get a medical card? And you're saying that person would say no.
Okay. They may want an evaluation. They may want a sleep study.
Okay, but
they may want something to verify that says, no kidding, have insomnia. It's not enough just to say I have it. Do you have a history? Do you have documentation?
Is that in the bill? Because it's my understanding what's in the bill is insomnia is a qualifying medical condition.
Yeah.
I could be like, look, man, I got 3 kids and a wife. I work every day. I don't have time to go overnight somewhere. Like, I have insomnia. I would like a medicinal, cannabis card.
But you need a diagnosis.
Okay. So bottom line is I'm not wrong in that insomnia is one of those things. And you're saying, but the doctors might want, which we don't know because it's doctor by doctor.
Right.
They might want additional information, which is not in the bill. It's not required from them. So it could be the kind of thing where they're like, okay, look, man, I believe you. Don't smoke too much. Here you go. And it could be, it's like, now I'm going to run you through all of these tests and all of these different things.
Right. I want to verify. I want a medical history that documents your insomnia. There's nothing preventing a doctor from asking for that before they give you the card.
Sure, but there's nothing requiring it either. So to your statement of like people want to make money, you get $50 for the appointment, then you get however much right in the card. Like those monetary forces will be at play here as well.
There's a good chance of it, yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so bottom line is then for us to be like, well, medicinal purposes, it's like, well, the medicinal purposes are quite broad, and you might get a doctor who wants additional information, and it's very possible that you could get a doctor that's incentivized monetarily, as people are critical of doctors like oncologists working for money, right? So if we believe that the oncologists are just prescribing things because they make money, there's no reason to believe that the people prescribing medicinal cannabis wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Right. Okay, so medicinal or not, it's going to be pretty much available to most people.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, you got 2 things going against that here in the state of Idaho. Okay. One is you get the medical card, you lose your gun rights.
And that's in the bill.
That's federal right now.
Okay.
That is a federal law.
Help me understand that.
Okay. If you are a Schedule I drug user, which is proven by your possession of a medical cannabis card.
Is that proven? Is that like a legal position? Or is it just making the assumption if you get, like if the FBI stings me, they come into the studio, the ballot passes. I go out because I'm like, I can't sleep. I get my card. I come in here. I drop a gummy. You come in and we get popped by the fuzz. And then all of a sudden the FBI blows through the podcast door. They're like, you 2 stoners, you're coming with us. And I'm like, oh no. And I drop another gummy because it's about to be a long day. And we go with them. And I'm tripping balls the whole time. They're reading me the riot act. And they're like, hey, man, what's in your microphone case? They're like, aha, the gummies, right? And then I lose my gun rights. It's like, okay, that's one thing. As opposed to them busting down the door, me not being stoned, but me having a card. They're like, you have a card in your possession that makes it legal for you to own or to get medicinal marijuana. I'm like, that's right. They're like, are you stoned? I'm like, no. They're like, pee in this cup. They're like, damn it, he wasn't stoned. They're like, does he have anything on him? No, he doesn't have anything on him. They're like, you still lose your gun rights.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
Pretty sure it is.
How sure? Because when you're saying you're pretty sure, just the fact that I have a card that enables me to take something per the state of Idaho doesn't mean I'm guilty of doing that thing. That's not how do you mean you're pretty sure?
The possession of the card signifies intent. Because if you're not intending on using it, why are you getting the card?
Do you know of any cases throughout the state and throughout the country of the United States where mere possession of a medicinal card has caused somebody to forfeit their gun rights?
Personally, no.
Okay. And of all the people in the states that have full recreation options, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm in a store just looking at the marijuana, which somebody could make the argument that that's intent to purchase and intent to use. Has anybody ever lost gun rights?
Okay, now that's a different argument. Reason why is because there's no, with a medical card, okay, that's where it shows that you had the intent, you were prescribed it at some point because you went in with the intent to get the prescription in order to use it for whatever condition you had. Okay.
As opposed to intending,
as opposed to walking into the recreational store.
Why else were you walking into the rec store?
Okay. Well, the thing is you walk into the rec store, there's no documentation that you walked into the rec store because it's a cash business.
No. I'm saying, what if I get busted? Like I'm in there, get popped by the fuzz. They're like, are you stoned? I'm like, no. They give me the cup again, go through the cup. They're like, damn it, he's not stoned. Does he have anything on him? No, he doesn't. But we have intent. Because he was physically in here when we were here, which shows intent, premeditated intention of purchase. Do you know of anybody who's ever lost a gun right because of that?
I do not know anybody who is lost.
Okay.
I don't personally.
So the idea that you're saying is that you lose a gun right, but there's no evidence or history of that happening in the United States, just by mere possession of a medicinal marijuana card.
Okay. I don't know anybody.
No, I know.
Okay.
I'm not talking about what Brian knows. Forget Brian. He's an idiot. I'm just saying, when you're saying, hey, man, you can lose this, I'm saying, do you know anybody? And you're saying, no, I don't. That doesn't mean it can't possibly happen. I'm just saying that you and I have no evidence of that happening.
No, I don't. But it's one of those arguments I've heard consistently over the years. Okay. Last 8 years of trying to collect signatures, people come up and say, hey, no. Don't want it legal in the state. Don't want a medical program in the state because if I use it here in the state and I get myself a card, I'm going to lose my gun rights. Just hear it over and over again. Now, it's true. It may just be a rumor.
Sure.
Okay. But usually most rumors are based in some level of fact. Now, one of the things that is going on right now is a case is being held by the Supreme Court, and they're expecting a ruling sometime in July or August on this, where it is indeed a medical card holder who has challenged the suspension of their gun rights because of their medical use.
Okay. So
and that's actually being heard in the Supreme Court this summer.
Okay. So but this is not just that he or she had a medical card.
Right. But,
so it's usage.
Right.
Right. Or possession or whatever quantity it was. Right. And I presume it was not, like you're going to lose your gun rights because you had like half an ounce on you.
Right. It's not, you're losing
you don't even go to
because,
jail. You just get a ticket here.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not even that you were in possession. You'd have to be in possession of a large enough quantity that you're going to prison and the person's defending themselves saying, but I had this card, so it enabled me to have like 100 pounds or whatever I have.
Right.
Right. Okay. So these are exceptional cases.
I don't know that they're exceptional. They're common enough that the laws exist, that it's actually a case going to the Supreme Court. Okay. Now, you and I were probably going to get absolutely roasted over this by the people who do actually know people once this hits the circuit.
Could be, man.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
And there are people who are far more versed in the legalese across the U.S., and they're probably going to start dropping case after case.
Dude, let's see if the Chatty G knows anyone. Come on. The Chatty G's. If somebody, okay, what are we asking? Has anyone in the USA lost 2A rights for just possession of medicinal marijuana card. Come on, Chatty G, don't let me down. This guy helps me out.
He does.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of the raw stuff.
He's got a lot of it, man. I asked him, so I don't use any AI to do my production, and I asked him the other day. Okay. Yes, at least in the sense that people have been denied firearm purchases or treated as federal prohibited based on holding a medicinal marijuana card, even without a separate violent or felonious qualifier. But the precise legal answer is the federal rule under 18 USC 922 G3, a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance is prohibited from possessing a firearm. Still, marijuana is still federally legal ATF. The important nuance, card possession alone versus proof of use. This is where it gets tricky. A medicinal marijuana card by itself is not the wording of the federal statute, but the ATF has long treated possession of a medical marijuana card as evidence giving an FFL, reasonable cause to believe that the buyer is an unlawful user, which can block a gun sale. That is why people with cards have been denied purchases, even if they argue that they are not actively using. The cleanest real-world example, Wilson versus Lynch. A woman in Nevada, S. Rowan Wilson, got a medicinal marijuana registry card and then tried to buy a firearm. The dealer refused the sale because she held the card, following ATF guidelines. She challenged that policy in federal court and lost in the Ninth Circuit in 2016. The court upheld the denial of firearms. So is she lose a right just for possession? Practically yes, for purchase or access. Legally, the government framed it as the card creating reasonable cause to believe she was an unlawful marijuana user. So the official theory was not the card itself is banned, but rather card possession is enough evidence to deny the user. So some people might be, it is very clear that some people might be very much anxious. And it sounds like that. I don't think it went on to give multiple cases. I think it was just that one. So,
well, the most prominent one.
Yeah, a very prominent one. So it appears that according to the Ninth Circuit, they're like, just possession of it could prevent you from getting a sale.
And Idaho is Ninth Circuit.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So where does this leave us then? You're saying people won't get it.
Right. People won't get their medical card. They'll still continue to go across the border to Oregon to ensure that they get quality supply, but there's no documentation of the purchase and there's no medical card, which allow them to continue to lie on their federal firearms license application or purchase application saying they're not a user.
So this will definitely not stop the black market.
No. Okay, so
I thought you said you were pro this ballot. This sounds crazy to me. It's not going to stop the black market.
No, it's not.
Like,
and I'll actually go into that discussion here in a little bit.
My gosh.
But one of the things it does do is it allows legal use for patients who find medical cannabis advantageous to their condition.
Well, legal statewide.
Right.
Least. Right. But adding into that is that you don't stop the black market.
No.
Right. You don't. It apparently is not valuable for people that are concerned about their Second Amendments in the state, which is bad, which means it's just by
which
its
is
nature,
most of the state.
Which means by its nature, most people, even if they have these problems, wouldn't engage in this because they don't want to give up their Second Amendment rights. So it doesn't actually solve the problem of like, you got 90% of people that are gun holders. And like, let's say that a proportional portion of those people need this. They're like, well, I'm not even going to engage in it. So it doesn't even fix the problem then.
No.
Wait, why is this good law then?
Reason why is because for those people who are seeking this medical program, it keeps them out of jail. It keeps them out of prison.
But they're not in jail. There's nobody for just personal marijuana possession in the Ada County Jail right now. Full stop. We can go online and look it up. Like you can check.
I know.
Right. So like they're not in jail.
No.
The people that are in jail with anything related to marijuana had like
anything under 3 ounces of cannabis, right. They take them in, they book them, they let them go.
I don't know how long it takes to smoke 3 ounces of cannabis.
It takes a long time.
Okay. So like,
it takes a long time.
So then it's not reality that you're going to prevent people that just intended personal use from staying out of jail because those people aren't in jail.
Right.
Great. So that's what you said is not true then. You're like, it prevents people from being in jail and prison. It's like the people that are interested in personal use are not in jail or prison.
Okay. So going back to Jeremy. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeremy has a federal pension. Okay. Medical retirement from the United States Air Force.
Yeah.
Okay. If he commits a federal felony, such as moving cannabis across state lines, he loses that. If he is able to purchase it here in the state of Idaho, he's able, and it's legal for that purchase. Okay. He will be able to get it for himself or for his wife and be able to carry it and hold it without worrying about being found guilty of a crime. Okay. So for him, this represents security in that he's able to continue to receive his justly won stipend from the state for the cancer that his job for the United States Air Force gave him. Okay, this is the same thing for parents who want to continue to have parental rights for their children.
I don't understand the parental rights one. What are you talking about?
Okay, one of the things with being caught using a Schedule I drug is that you are considered a risk as a parent, and your custodial rights of your children can be taken from you through family court.
Okay, but Joe, we just said that, like, I spoke, okay, people just get a ticket. In practice, like, I have not heard people say, hey man, I had a little bit of cannabis on me or I got caught smoking something and I lost my kids.
Yeah, and the next day, child services is showing up at your door and saying, hey, I understand you were arrested for cannabis. We'd like to check your premises and make sure that you are not a risk to your children. It happens.
Okay. Again,
I know. You don't hear about it a lot unless you're involved in the company of people who have been using it illegally. Okay, these are conditions that exist very low key. Reason why is because an awful lot of these people do not have the money to fight the system. They quietly cut plea deals. They work arrangements with the court. They just disappear. They do not make a stink. Reason why is because if they make this stink, they will lose their children. Their children will be placed in foster care. And we continue to see that on a regular enough basis that we understand that it does happen, and it is a threat that is used on a regular basis against the population, against parents who use self-medicate here in the state. You know, it's common practice in Oregon and Washington as well.
What is?
The use of child protective services and a cannabis conviction in order to remove children from the home.
Isn't it legal in Oregon?
Doesn't stop CPS.
I don't understand.
Okay, reason why is Child Protective Services follows federal guidelines.
Okay, so even if it was legal here, then it wouldn't make a difference. So you're
arguably,
saying
yeah.
Your argument of, hey man, it's going to make it so that you could have this and not have your kids removed is totally bunk, because kids still get removed theoretically in Oregon because they're dealing with federal guidelines, not state. So like legalizing this or having this law come to pass will not affect that one iota. I presume it also wouldn't affect Jeremy.
Well, no, it wouldn't affect Jeremy.
Okay, so Jeremy and the parents, the two examples you brought up,
right,
those are bunk. They don't
arguably, yes. Okay, the question is who's handling the prosecution? Is the prosecution being handled by a state agency or by a federal agency?
Well, if it's a federal crime, does it matter?
Individual law enforcement agencies have different policies and procedures.
Okay, so
So there are certain things that a state may decide to enforce or not enforce.
So it will come down to the individual law enforcement agency. It won't come down to what laws passed.
Correct. It's not universal.
Gotcha.
It's selective enforcement.
Well, my guy, there's a lot.
It is. So let's actually step back and take a look at the black market that's still going to be left in the state of Idaho. Okay. So the estimate right now is that this will bring in $1 million or $100 million in sales, commercial activity here in the state of Idaho for the sale of cannabis. Now, right now, the state of Idaho purchases somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $4.5 million a week in border town dispensaries. Okay, that's $2.5 to $300 million a year.
Are all of those people getting busted?
No.
Okay, so okay.
I mean, there's randoms that get busted, but as a general rule, they're allowed to go across the border, purchase their stuff, drive back across. Now, there are some counties, ironically, where the police, where the law enforcement do actually enforce it. They're waiting for people to come across the border. The dogs are ready, canines. They get the car sniff, and then they get their fine, and then they move through the court systems. They pay $5,000 to a lawyer. They're able to get it reduced to simple possession or, some other things.
But it might have been simple possession in the first place.
Right.
Right. So they don't necessarily have to pay $5,000 and get it reduced to simple possession because it may actually just be simple possession.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Let's go back to the tax point you were trying to make.
But what it is you're looking at $100,000 or $100 million in revenue a year coming, or not revenue,
tax revenue,
industry coming into the state. Okay. So that's technically only about a third of what Idaho is purchasing right now.
Why is that?
Okay, because all we're selling is medical. And we're generating $100 million in industry here in the state of Idaho with the medical program. While Idahoans,
you're saying we would be.
We would be.
Okay.
Okay, we would be generating $100 million annually.
Gross revenue.
Gross. That's what we're generating as an industry, as a medical cannabis industry in the state of Idaho, be worth roughly $100 million a year.
Okay, great. And then we would collect some tax off of that.
Right, some tax.
Be it like 10%. So we get like $10 million.
Okay.
Got it.
Now, right now, $300 million a year is what's being spent in border town. That's just the border town dispensaries. That's not even considering internal purchases from home growers. Okay. So we're only knocking out a third of the black market industry. A third of cannabis sales in the state of Idaho would be for the medical industry. We'd still be spending $200 million a year in recreational purchases across the border and for black market distributors here within the state.
Okay.
The black market's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I believe you. Yeah, you said that earlier. I 100% believe it's not going anywhere.
But at the same time, this does legalize the process for those people, and it starts the legalization process. It gives them a window that allows them to use here in the state.
Gotcha. Well, listen, man, there's a lot of information to take in. I really appreciate you breaking all this down. Is there anything you want to add here kind of at the end? We've talked about quite a few things. My goodness. More than I was anticipating. I'll tell you that much.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me first and foremost. And one of the things I do feel is important about this is to be honest about the full spectrum of what's going on.
Right.
Okay. We all want to see the black market reduced. We'd like to see it gone from the state entirely. We'd like to see substance abuse being handled properly here in the state. Okay, legalization in a medical environment with guardrails for some of the things that we use here in the state, whether it's ketamine, methadone, cannabis, some of the new laws about kratom, get the guardrails in place so that we have an ability to talk about it. We have an ability to address substance abuse issues. And we still need the patient advocacy for those that are using these as medicine. Okay. Ketamine has medicinal properties. Cannabis has medicinal properties. You know, we continue to see these. We want to be able to allow people to have affordable access to these things for medical reasons, because we are first and foremost patient advocates. We want our patients to be taken care of. We want our patients to be healthy and be able to pursue an enjoyable quality of life, you know, within the time they have. So we take care of these issues and we start whittling away at the black market. We make it harder for them to profit off of it. We make sure that we have the understanding of what's going on from a medical perspective. And above all, we need the state, our legislators, to understand how this natural process works. Because, as I stated earlier, we have not seen a state that's successfully been able to get rid of the black market to date, because the state insists on taking such a large chunk of the profit that the producers, the legal producers that are honoring the regulations, honoring the quality control, aren't able to compete with the black market producers that are coming in. We need to make sure that the white market, the fair market, the legal market is competitive or better than what the black market can produce. Otherwise, the black market never goes anywhere. It sticks around. And we continue to see the things that Monty was talking about. We continue to see the gangs. We continue to see those issues developing in areas where people can't talk about it, where we're being overrun by organizations that continue to see a profit to be had because we aren't letting the legal market be competitive with the black market.
That's a lot, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on and saying your piece and talking about all these things.
Hey, you're welcome.
There's a lot. There's a lot there. There's a lot to consider. So thank you for coming on, my guy. We'll do it again.